Chapter 18. We stepped out of the limo and stepped into the old-world charm of the Essex house. The doorman greeted us by nodding his head in respect, and on entering the restaurant, the maitre d' smiled and seated us near a window overlooking the park. "This is beautiful. I've never seen this before. Hopefully we will get a chance to enjoy this more often." He paused and looked at me and said, "Together." No sooner had Jordan made that statement than in walked Brandon. He was dressed in a black suit, which appeared to be tailor-made because it fit him, as if he was born in that suit. His expensive haircut was short with a wind-blown effect, tossed in all the right directions, making him the sexiest and handsomest man alive. My involuntary sound, "aha," of amazement caught me by surprise. And I spotted him, before Jordan turned his head to see who had stolen my attention away from him. Jordan vigorously talking, but I wasn't listening. I shook my head as if I heard him, but I didn't hear or see anyone except Brandon Charles. "Good morning, Tyler," he said, standing at the table with a wide smile. "Can I join you for breakfast?" "No," I said. "Yes," Jordan said to him. I cut my eyes in Jordan's direction, and he had a slight smile on his face. "I hope you don't mind that I brought one of my bank managers with me." I didn't know that Tyler was a bank manager now. The last we spoke, she was an assistant in training. I looked at Jordan in disbelief. "Yes. But I promoted her," Jordan said, placing his hand over mine. I inched my hand from his as Brandon and I locked eyes. "You must have been very competent," Brandon said, not smiling and staring at me. "Oh, she is indeed quite competent," Jordan said, looking at me with a killer smile showing his white predatory teeth. I was getting very angry at Jordan's insinuation that I had all but fucked him to get promoted. If she had come to work for me, I would have promoted her too because she has special skills, Brandon said to Jordan with a smirk on his sexy lips, his mouth rising slowly at the corners. I felt like a piece of meat between two alpha wolves. I knew then it was time to stand up for myself. I wanted to pay both of them back for the banter that appeared to be nothing but insults at my expense. "Look, I don't know what's between the two of you, but I'm new to this game. I came here for breakfast with my boss and nothing else." Jordan looked at Brandon. "Tyler is right, but she forgot to tell you that she and I are an item." "Oh shit." My eyes grew to the size of two saucers, and my mouth flew open wide enough to catch insects. "I don't think this concerns Brandon," I said. "It does concern me. I had planned on telling you that I was getting a divorce," Brandon said to me, his blue eyes turning dark. "There may be no need for a divorce," Jordan said with a large smile. "What are you talking about?" Brandon said with his glance shuddering from me to Jordan. "Did you see the morning headlines?" Jordan said. "You know I don't read certain papers. I've been at my family's estate in Maine," Brandon said with his eyes wavering between me and Jordan and falling on me, reminding me of the nights we spent there together. "I think you need to pick up the paper and call your lawyer and get an alibi." The busboy came around and placed another plate and silverware in front of Brandon. With a cool voice, Jordan said, "Mr. Charles is not staying." Brandon stood. "Call me," he said to Jordan. "When you're ready to talk business and leave my personal life out of this, then we can make a decision on whether we can have a partnership with the high-rise I'm building." He placed his hands in his pants pockets and said, "Tyler, I'll see you." He stared long into my eyes, and I knew his intentions. And Jordan knew that it wouldn't be the last time I came into contact with Brandon. We watched as Brandon strode through the restaurant, looking not as confident as he had been coming in. He turned around and looked in our direction one more time, slid his long fingers through his tousled hair and exited the restaurant. I glanced in Jordan's direction, seething, boiling over with anger. How dare you bring me into the middle of whatever is going on between the both of you? I found my voice. It's not what you think, Tyler. I'm not a fool. Some things may be new to me, but I know when I am being used. If you don't tell me what's going on, then. I stopped before I quit my job. I needed that job, and I hadn't received a paycheck yet. Tyler, I may have started out trying to get under Brandon's skin, but believe me, my intentions have changed. I like your company. You're a very intelligent woman, and you're not interested in anything but trying to do a good job. Young women come in every day, and the first thing they think about is to get close to me. I'm no fool. I know you aren't like most women, and that's what makes you different and charming to me. He leaned into me and looked into my eyes. If you're as bright as I think you are, you will understand that I honestly like you, and I want the opportunity to be around you and show you that I'm sincere. He waited for me to say something, and when I didn't, he said, I won't interfere with your work, and if you don't want to work with me, I understand, and I'll release you from your contract and give you a good reference. But before you do, please think it over. Our food arrived, and I didn't say a word until after I had eaten my eggs, and discovered that I could get used to the fancy names disguising what they really were, ham and eggs. Jordan, I said softly, his head lifted when I called his name. I will let you know on Monday if I will continue at your bank. Will you still be my guest at the black and white dinner at the Museum of Natural History? I promised you that I would. Jordan appeared to be delighted. His face brightened and a slight smile crossed his face. A face that was quite handsome, but none to rival Brandon's. I rode back to work in Jordan's limo. I had considered taking a cab, but I knew Jordan wouldn't hear of the notion. After all, he had given me a rest from work, and I had a chance to look at Brandon, whom I loved and couldn't get enough of. The driver dropped me off at the bank, and Jordan continued on, after apologizing again for what happened at breakfast. He appeared sincere in his apology. His handsome face and bright, reassuring smile proved hard to resist. I stayed at the bank longer, and worked to catch up on all the work I hadn't completed that morning. I worked through lunch. I didn't want Vivian to think I took advantage of her good nature. Stumbled out of the bank at 7:30, with darkness almost settling over the city. I'm sure the guard was either delighted with the overtime or thought I was a nuisance. I didn't hear from Jordan or Brandon, and I felt pleased with myself when I hailed the cab. My head fell back, and I almost fell asleep if it wasn't for the jouncing and jerking of the cab every few minutes as it hit a rut. Is this the stop, Ms.? The driver questioned, even though he had a GPS system. Not quite, but I'll get out here. It wasn't but a half a block to walk to the loft. People were mulling about on the street. Some women going home after a long day of work to husbands and kids. Some men and women entering bars to relax before they trudged home to their expensive but small apartments. I paid the driver before stepping out onto the curb. Closing the door, I looked up and down the block. Parked in front of the loft was Brandon's limo. What now? I whispered as I lumbered closer, passing the limo. I couldn't see inside his limo, and I hurried to the door, hoping that I made it in the apartment before he could see me. When I stopped in front of the building, the door opened to his limo, and out stepped a pair of long legs attached to that beautiful body. I turned when I heard his door open, and I stood a moment mesmerized. Dressed casually, or as casual as a rich man can, he wore an off-white silk and cotton V-neck sweater with a pair of dark designer jeans. What is it, Brandon? I'm tired and I need some sleep tonight. I want to sleep with you, he said straight to the point. Why did he have to look at me in that way? His blue eyes fixed on me, stopping me in my tracks, making me nervous. A way that says he could undress me with his eyes and one hand. Are you crazy, or do you think I'm completely unaware of your intentions? I said, not too convincing. Neither, he said to me, showing me his key. Then he put his key in the door and opened it. He stretched out his hand to let me go in first, as he held the door open like a gentleman. He walked behind me to the elevator, and we both stepped in. I was too tired to resist, and he knew it. I needed to get into the shower and wash some of Brandon and Jordan off of me. These two alpha males were stinking up my life, and I had to find some distance from them. But it appeared it wouldn't happen tonight. I was in no mood tonight, in light of what I had read in the papers. I managed to get the key to the loft out of my purse and open the door in defiance. I gave him a raised eyebrow, along with a huff, to let him know that I didn't approve of what he was doing. He stood close behind me. I could feel his hard body melt into mine, so close I could smell him, and he was hot and with a divine smell of a young man in heat. I became hot as well. Inside the door I dropped my purse, and he placed his hand behind the nape of my neck and let his mouth slide behind my ear and down my neck to my breasts. My breathing loud and intense as he held me with his head working down to my nipple. I swore he sucked it through my blouse and through the thin bra that concealed my nipple erection. He took a moment to catch his breath, and for me to try to catch mine. "Do you want me as much as I want you?" he asked. I felt his lips clip my earlobe on his return trip down to my breasts. He paused, looking up at me, asking my permission. "We can't. We just can't." I tried to sound as if I meant every word, but his body was melded into mine. His hand lifted my skirt and he found my butt and felt it. He knew. He knew. You can't hide a thing when you're wrapped in the arms of a man you love. And his hand is on your sexual pulse. All your common sense flies out the window and you fly with it. My mouth and brain told one story and my eyes told another. He couldn't read my mind and he didn't hear the soft whisper of no, no, no. By the time I released the last breathless no, I was helping him with my bra and unzipping his pants. I had no control of my hands, and my mind was rebelling against any thoughts that I had concerning Brandon, his marriage, or the disappearance of Angela. Chapter 19. I woke not knowing the day. I thought it was Friday. I looked to my left, and the digital clock said 8 a.m. I quickly rolled out of Chris's bed without thinking. I was going through the motion of going to work when I heard a key in the door. I pulled my t-shirt over my head and threw it on the hardwood floor. Looking down, I realized that I didn't have on a bra or panties. In strolled Brandon with coffee and breakfast from the deli. He glanced at my frantic face. My mouth wide open and my just fucked hair standing and making a halo around my face. He sauntered over to the granite countertop and laid our breakfast there with a satisfied gleam in his eyes and said, "Where are you going, princess? You look so cute standing there naked, and your hair." I cut his conversation short as I foraged for a robe on a nearby chair, trying to hide my body. Placing the robe on, I said, "I have to be to work at 7 and it's 8. I won't be there until 9. I know I'll get fired." I rushed to pick up the coffee cup when he placed his hand over mine. "Hold on, princess. It's Saturday," he whispered. My eyes closed in relief. I looked up and sucked in a long breath. My head fell back, and I thanked God that I hadn't fucked up again because of Brandon. A married Brandon. After taking a large drink of coffee, I sat at the bar and played around with the bagel with cream cheese, my comfort food. "What are you doing here?" I said, narrowing my eyes to slits. "Isn't that what I'm supposed to say? But considering how you tore my clothes off and took advantage of me and made me feel used, then I'm not surprised at whatever comes next out of your mouth." "And such a pretty mouth," he said, passing the pad of his thumb on the rim of my lips. I swatted his hand away and shot him a deserved frown. You aren't funny, Brandon. Yes, but you are. You should have been standing in my shoes when I opened that door. A blinding smile escaped from his mouth, showing beautiful white teeth. A smile that would capture the devil and hold him in his tracks. Why don't we go back to bed and forget the world around us is a hostile mess, princess? Let's pretend that I'm your prince, and I'm going to kiss you, and make love to you in all the right places, and you are going to wake up, and we are going to live happily ever after," he said, pulling me into him. But his eyes darkened, and he lost his smile at the sound of his own words. The silence between us grew loud, and I had to say something. I stepped from his embrace. "What happened to Angela?" He didn't answer and changed the subject. "Tell me what's going on between you and Jordan," I said. When I mentioned Jordan's name, my eyes tightened and I said, "Oh shit." I remembered that I agreed to go to a black tie dinner at 7 tonight. "What's the matter?" "I have a date tonight," I said to him. "Why are you going on a date?" "I don't have to tell you anything." I had strayed from the original conversation. "What is going on with you and Jordan?" I demanded. The movement of his eyes told me that he didn't want to discuss it, and he was trying to wrangle his way out of telling me anything even about Angela. He made a sigh. "It's a long story. I'm not going anywhere yet. And while you're at it, tell me what's up with the headlines in the papers about you having something to do with Angela's disappearance." "It's ridiculous, isn't it?" he said, feigning a smile and waving his hand as if the article was mere gossip. "Jordan and I have been at odds since we were in college. Who could get the prettiest girls, who could fuck the girls most likely not to, who had the most money, who would marry first, and who would be most successful in business. I began to wonder if I was part of that bet, or whatever game they were playing. It was presumptuous of me to even think that I was that important." He glanced at me to gauge his next words and he continued, "Jordan dated a girl in college and he was supposed to marry her. I started dating her and we became close friends. I didn't love her." I looked at him. I guess at the time he loved her. "Did you have a girl at the same time you started dating Jordan's girlfriend?" I knew that if I was going to get the truth from Brandon, I had to ask the right questions. His eyes met mine and he answered, "Yes." He paused, and I knew he wanted to tell me the truth. We switched partners. Jordan dated my girl and I dated his girl. He looked at me and reached across the bar searching for my hand. I pulled my hand down and let it rest in my lap. I didn't love Angela, and I didn't love Jordan's girl. "I love you." I sat quietly waiting for the next shoe to drop. My girlfriend was Angela. Angela was with Jordan then. "And now she's your wife, or was your wife." My words hurt him and I saw it in his face. "How could you do this to your friends?" His hands went to his mouth and his brow wrinkled like a slept-on pillow. He showed pain and sorrow for what he caused. "I love you, princess. I can't change what happened then. I made so many mistakes. I wish I could take all of it back from the tragic accident of Paige." "What accident?" I questioned. He let out a hard sigh. "Paige died in a car accident." His quivering lips made a downward curve, and his hand covered his mouth. He stroked his light beard. He was clearly nervous. "I had a fight with Angela, and I got drunk. I went to Paige's house, and she jumped into my Porsche, and the last thing I remember was her telling me to put on my seatbelt and to slow down." "You were drinking when I met you," I stated. "Were you drinking then?" "Yes. Paige had been dead only 2 months before I met you," he said. "And you were marrying Angela?" I said in disgust. "I had to. Her father got me out of the murder charge and DWI charges and kept things out of the papers. He owned the papers. She knew I didn't love her, and she sure as hell didn't love me. So we made an agreement that we would marry, and we would get a divorce soon after. I guess that didn't work out, I said, even more alarmed at the thought of what had happened to Jordan and Paige. Brandon. I'm not asking your permission, I hesitated, and I don't think we can see each other for a while. You haven't been good for me. Please leave me alone, I begged. You are married and there is a scandal. I shouldn't see you. This is all a mistake. My words came out disjointed, and I was making things up without thinking about what I had said. He walked to me, took my arms and turned me around. It's not a mistake. I don't want you to get involved with Jordan until I find Angela. You can't ask that of me. I won't allow you to come between what little happiness I will have in the future, I said. I'm going to do whatever is in my power to stop you. I need you and I love you, princess. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to you. I've endured 5 hellish years away from you, thinking of you every day. You never tried to get in contact with me, and now when I have a chance for a job and a man who likes me for me, you tell me that you will prevent me from having any kind of happiness. It's not about you anymore, Brandon. It's about me. I want you to leave. Leave me now. He turned without saying a word, and with a slow walk, made it to the door and closed it and locked it. I felt nervous that he still had a key. I called Chris, and she agreed that I should change the locks and she would speak to Brandon.